that's in the past. Why are you dredging up the past? Well, the past isn't the past. And I think my whole body of research that I've done, looking at different events all across the world, you find this over and over and over, that the effects of the past linger and they have consequences. And in general, if these events are historically important enough, they shape the way the world is today. After learning about the Tulsa Massacre and reading a bit about it and realizing we don't have a lot of hard statistical evidence about what the consequences were, that's basically where I came in, is just wanting to know what were the consequences of the Tulsa Massacre. So immediately after the massacre, we find that Black household heads who owned homes fell by 4.5 percentage points. And then if you think of another measure of that is, are you an individual that's living in a home that's owned by someone in your family? That measure of homeownership fell by 6.3 percentage points. And the other thing that we find is decline in occupational status. And one measure of occupational status is to look at, is an individual working in a white collar occupation? There's a 3.1% chance that you're in a white collar occupation. Then after the massacre, that figure falls by 2.3 percentage points. So that's a huge, huge effect. It's 66% decline in white collar occupations. That result is controlling for, taking into account everything else that's going on in the economy and also between different racial groups. But it's not just in Tulsa, but we see these effects in other parts of the country as well. So we look at newspapers all across the US and basically look and see, are they covering the massacre in the days right after? And what we find is where there is more intensity of coverage about the massacre, the effects that we find in Tulsa, we also find in those communities as well.
Just like we know that there's a thing such as generational wealth, there's also generational poverty. What we found in working through the Justice for Greenwood Foundation and our work with our survivors and descendants is that this generational poverty or generational lack of opportunity started with the massacre. And let's talk about Viola Fletcher. After the massacre, and Mother Fletcher had to flee for her life with her family to Claremore to live in an impoverished state, she was not able to go back and finish school. And it caused her lots of problems in life. For most of her life, she was a domestic worker, working for pennies, working for white families that treated her less than they treated their dogs. Leslie Benefield Randall, also a little girl at the time, only 6 years old. But she was in town with her grandmother, Molly Benefield. And obviously during the massacre, she's a young lady. She says she can't remember a lot, but she does remember running. She does remember them coming to the door saying, the blacks need to get out.